welcome to episode 134. How's everybody doing? Spring is almost here, and I feel like there's some optimism in the air. I'm feeling pretty good, and hope you guys are too. So I asked the guys if I could make a one-episode return to the podcast, so I joined Kelly and Garrett for this episode. Just a bit of an opportunity to catch up with the guys. I certainly miss being on the podcast, so appreciate that they let me back on for an episode. Hope you guys dig it. Hey, if you want to help out the show, you can always head over to iTunes or wherever you get your podcast from and leave a rating and a review. But let's get right into this one. Sit back, relax, crack an ice cold beer, and enjoy episode 134.
Mike.
Hey.
Garrett.
Kelly.
What's going on, guys?
Just living.
It's good to have you back, Mike.
Thanks for having me on your podcast.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's all three of our podcasts, really. I mean, people still hear you at the front and the end,
Yeah.
So you're the bookmarks, or the bookends, I should say.
Yeah, I've been missing this, so I just texted you guys last week or whatever, and like, hey, you guys want to do a podcast together? It'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, catch up.
So
at
I
least.
invited myself back on the show.
Definitely. Well, yeah, I mean, we've been having a blast, Garrett and I, for sure. But yeah, it's good to have a little reunion here.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
What's new?
Hey, you guys, Bree bought one of these cubies. They go under the desk, so we're all working from home now. And it's like this little elliptical that you can put under your desk. So as I'm podcasting, I can burn some cows.
If you're ever doing like a work conference call, you might want to let them know what's up. Because from my angle right now, watching you bob back and forth is interesting.
It's pretty funny, this thing. Oh, she's got it maxed out. Different world, man.
Yes, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's all good on my side, just keeping busy. James is keeping us busy more than anything. And then, throw work on top of that. And, it's nice to podcast once in a while here. And Garrett and I, like I said, we've been having a blast. We've talked to a couple guests here and kind of getting into the swing of things. Looking forward to hunting season, really.
Yeah, it's not that far away.
And that's coming up on us pretty quick here. So, get into some bear and turkey, hopefully. And also looking forward to getting the boat out pretty quick too.
Nice.
Yeah. And, we all know Garrett's keeping busy out at the farm there.
Yeah, there's no time off.
No time off. No.
There's no time off. Yeah.
Hey, how are the horses' feet, Garrett?
They're doing a lot better. Yeah, a lot better. I switched them over to a different pasture there. It's a little drier, so things are looking up. Me and Jonesy spent most of the day there on the tractor, so now I got a mountain of shit out in my backyard there. So things are looking good.
What are you doing with all the shit?
You know what, Mike? I don't know. I might just dump it over the bank because they keep making it and it keeps piling up. So it's pretty soupy out there, though. Everything's melting off really quick. I'm not sure what it's like over where you guys are, but
Can't use it in your garden?
well, I don't think you can use it right away. I think you got to give it time to burn off any kind of weeds or that. I'm not sure if you've ever tried using horse manure in your garden. I think it comes with a lot of weeds.
Oh, okay.
We usually use like steer manure or something like that.
Right.
But I'm sure it can be used for something. Just haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, Mike, what have you been doing lately? What's new in Mike's world? Have you been getting out or going for hikes, getting outdoors, that type of thing?
Yeah, starting to run quite a bit. Well, I was, it's hard with the way the weather was before. I'd get out whenever the weather was good because it gets icy and kind of shitty, right?
Yeah.
And kind of sketchy when it gets like that. But it's been so nice the last couple weeks here that I've been able to get out and do that quite a bit.
Yeah.
My girlfriend's doing the 30-day yoga challenge that always comes up around this time of year. And I heard the word challenge. So that led me to thinking of doing a 30-day running challenge. So that started 4 days ago. So
Nice.
check in with me at the end of the month and see how I'm feeling.
Nice. What's the goal?
Just to
Like at the end,
run for
just running?
just
There's
30
no
days of
distance
running.
goal or anything?
No, just to
Okay.
get out every day. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So
Yeah, man. I've been on a couple hikes, and depending on whether you're on a north or south facing slope, it's pretty treacherous, like just a sheet of ice.
yeah.
And I wore my hiking boots, and I don't have any spikes or anything, like so I'm getting pulled all over the place. The dog's pulling me. I'm hanging on for dear life, and there's an 80-year-old dude trail running, and he's got just some spikes on and stuff. So I obviously had the wrong equipment.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I find once you get into spring too, like you're so pumped about getting out, but then once you get out there, if you're on the wrong side of the mountain, it can just be a complete mud pit.
Yeah, it's
So you
kind of
gotta watch for that.
misleading, but yeah, there's a trail I want to try out here soon. I feel like it's still going to be kind of icy once you get in the trees, and it's pretty steep, so kind of misleading at this time of year, but I think we get 2 more weeks of this kind of stuff, man, and it might still be a bit muddy out there, but it'll be good
Yeah.
to get out on the trails and do some training out there, because running on the roads gets pretty old in a hurry.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's weird not having the dog, because I'm not out hiking every morning like I used to. So that's definitely,
yeah.
You don't realize it until you don't have a dog, that like how much they motivate you to get out, because like it's not an option to not take them for a hike every day, right? So
Yeah.
definitely miss that part of it. And, but just got to force yourself to get out.
Yeah, totally. Bit of a life changer there.
Yeah, for sure.
Are you thinking of getting another dog, Mike?
Eventually it'll be like at least a year, I think, before I do that. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see.
You got any breeds in mind?
There's a few. Like obviously I love like pointers, like Oscar's in the pointer family with being a Weimaraner. German short-haired pointers are cool. Vizsla, neat dogs. Whippets are cool dogs.
Oh yeah.
They're only like, I got to double check, but I think they're only like 40 pounds or something like that. They're pretty small dogs, but they're super fast, and they're apparently really good, like dogs out on the trail, and super mellow inside. So that might be kind of a cool breed to have
Nice.
something a little bit smaller, but yeah, we'll see what happens, man. And then maybe just some random dog will come my way at some point and do that. So we'll see.
Yeah, Norris is 45-ish,
Yeah.
somewhere in there. Although a lot of times he looks bigger just because he's got a lot of
All that
hair.
hair on him. Yeah.
Once you shave him down, he looks like a whippet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
We'll see. But yeah, definitely at some point, man, it's, dogs have been, well, as you know, Garrett, you've been the same too. Dogs have always been around. So it's, yeah,
I don't think I ever remember you without a dog.
not really. No. Yeah.
No.
There's just a few years while I was going to school and that. And as soon as I had my own place
Mhm.
here, that was sort of my thought, was as soon as I owned my own place, I was getting a dog. And it was a few months later that Oscar came around. So Yeah.
Nice.
they're,
Yeah, you definitely want one that can hike with you, or it like molds into your lifestyle.
yeah, exactly, man.
Mhm.
It's got to be a high energy breed for sure.
Maybe one that doesn't, walk through shelters that you set up and then launch himself off cliffs. Those are 2 criteria that I've added to my list.
Yeah, maybe one that's a little bit dumber than Oscar was too, because that dog was too smart, man. I was
Yeah.
just today actually I was laughing
Escape artist.
because I was going out my front door here, and I could see like little claw marks on the door, because he knew how to unlock the deadbolt and open the door. So like,
Holy.
yeah, he
Yeah.
escaped out of like all of my places at one point or another. This was only like a couple of months ago. Even with his health deteriorating, he was still up to no good. But I went for a run and left him at home here, and I came home and he was out in the hallway, just wandering around. So he just popped the door open, no problem, and was cruising the halls. But
Yeah.
quite the dog, man.
Well, yeah, we were up moose hunting
Oh,
a couple
yeah,
years ago, and I, got a text. I think we had just like a sliver of service there, and I saw something about how Oscar had escaped from your house yet again, and that Ash was looking for him, and then I kind of went at the fire. I'm like, yeah, but so by the way, not to wreck the trip or anything, but your dog's missing. but it's all good. He's been found. It was by then that he'd already been found, but it wasn't the first time that had happened.
No. Yeah.
So
yeah, something
yeah.
slightly dumber would be great for sure.
Sounds like it's only a matter of time then.
Yeah. But yeah, otherwise,
Awesome.
man, just working.
Cool.
Lots of laptop work, which just it's kind of the way of the world right now. Lots of sitting around here, but that's all right.
For sure. Are you looking forward to bear turkey hunting season kind of starting up? Or are you gonna? I know we've chatted a little bit. You might join me on a couple hunts.
Yeah, I
there.
might follow you around out there for sure, man.
Yeah, it'd be sweet.
Yeah.
Garrett and I. Well, even the last couple podcasts. I mean, the topic of conservation and just the state of BC in terms of wildlife management and all the anti-hunting and just everything that's going on. It seems to be taking it to a whole nother gear lately. We had Jesse on lately. We posted that clip from Faces of Wildlife, the last episode there that you did on that series. And I actually listened to that episode again today. And, really just encourage folks to go listen to that series and especially that episode. And as well, the one with the Habitat Conservation Trust,
which I think was the episode that came out before that one. And it kind of just explains the Habitat Conservation Trust Foundation takes all that money that comes from hunting, and they also take money from donors and also from like fines they collect from like polluters or poachers or anything like that. A judge can make a decision to take that money that would have gone into like general revenue or wherever that goes. Like if someone gets a fine, and they can decide to give it to the Habitat Conservation Trust Foundation to go back into conservation as well. So, that's the part that people don't really understand is like hunting is conservation. And I get why people don't understand it, but you have to do a little bit of research before you can go out and say that, hunting is terrible. And I listened to that interview that Jesse did on the radio, the debate, and it's frustrating to listen to that, man. Just knowing what I know, and from all the conversations we've had on here and some of the interviews I did for Faces of Wildlife, and it takes a long time to kind of learn all the facts, and it is confusing, but you can't really argue with the facts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a lot of money coming in from hunters, and hunters genuinely care about conservation. On one of the previous episodes, in my intro, I was talking about going down to the South Okanagan and seeing all the sheep, man. And there's like a direct result of, Wild Sheep Society of BC and the Wild Sheep Foundation. And of course, there's other groups involved, but Habitat Conservation Trust is part of that too. That's where all that money kind of comes from, you know what I mean? So those are the kinds of things that I wish people understood when they go out and they see, a whole bunch of wild sheep like that they're there for a reason, man. And it's because hunters actually do care. We don't just want to go out there and kill shit for the fun of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was the last episode of Face of Wildlife where it kind of mentioned that if you go to any project that's happening in terms of habitat restoration, whether it's prescribed burns or, road restoration or shrub, brushing, even I think the fishing derbies that happen, the Okanagan Lake fishing derbies, one of the reasons they put those on is to actually get a sense of, how many fish are there. Like you can kind of get a sense of fish and fish health through fishing derbies and things like that. But, they're all hunters and anglers that are, not all, I shouldn't say all, but like a large majority of the people there, if you actually talk to them, they're hunters and anglers that want to protect the habitat. They want to protect the animals. So, you don't have to go too far and start talking to folks to realize that most of the folks engaged and supporting these initiatives are hunters.
Yeah.
So, Jesse talked a lot about the building of a straw man. And I think, there's people in different spectrums of the argument, right? Like I think that an animal rights lawyer is going to be pretty far on one side of the spectrum. Like that's probably a pretty hard gap to cross, even if the person's willing to listen. I'm not sure. I mean, I feel like that's a pretty extreme position. Whereas I would think that, the majority of folks are probably somewhere in the middle, the folks that are non-hunters. But I kind of feel like that building of a straw man feeds into, the general public and the misunderstanding they have about hunters. And then you kind of throw in the addition of the lack of ability for hunters to use social media correctly.
Yeah.
And then you throw in the amount of like misguided marketing on behalf of marketing of hunters, or, in hunting. And it kind of like just snowballs into this, massive problem where if you're just a person that doesn't really understand hunting and you're kind of being bombarded with 3 or 4 of those elements at the same time, you're going to get swayed pretty easily to that side of the argument. And really the only thing that's probably going to sway that person away, like Jesse says, is actually having a discussion with somebody that you respect and who is a hunter, like just to kind of cross that gap a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just remember when we started hunting, I started getting into Steve Ranella and Meat Eater, and there were some YouTube videos about him, and he was kind of, promoting it. I think he was on a book tour or something, but he'd do Q&As, and there was one guy that was a vegan, and then, he's answering questions. They're going back and forth. It was just super respectful. Both sides willing to listen to the argument. He was kind of giving kudos to him about, his choice. And we just got to have discussions like that, I think, is the key. But it's just it's almost like we're always at a disadvantage to have the amount of conversations we need to have to beat the straw man and everything else that's working against hunters in the media.
Yeah.
Like it just feels like a race that you're kind of always behind in.
Yeah.
That's kind of the frustrating part for me anyway.
And the thing that always comes to mind for me is like, you can't really have an opinion on something that you haven't experienced.
Yeah. That seems to be a kind of a common theme though, with a lot of, with Twitter and everything else these days.
Exactly.
It's like everyone's an armchair GM.
Yeah. So,
but
it's pretty interesting. Well, I guess for the wrong reasons, but, I don't know, man. I don't know what to say about it really. What do you guys think, like hunters? Because I've distanced myself from what's going on, not intentionally, just kind of wrapped up in everything else I'm doing. But what do you think hunters are doing a good job of right now? And what do you think hunters need to do to improve this situation?
Well, I think that everything that's out there right now, especially if you are on social media, if you're following guys like Mark Hall or people who are a strong voice for conservation, I mean, and Jesse Zeman too, are pushing this whole get a hold of your MLA and then giving you the steps to take to approach it. And I think that's great because I've used that to contact my MLA and voice my concern. Even Dylan from Eat Wild too. I mean, everybody right now is just advocating for a stronger voice for hunters and portraying a better image. So that's great. It's helped me out a lot, and I've taken that angle and reached out and expressed my concerns. So I think there is a change coming. I feel like most people who are watching this stuff are speaking up for hunters now, because I mean, I'm hearing it around work and that too. So I mean, I feel pretty confident about the outcome of hunters.
Yeah, I would agree with that too, Garrett. I think when I look at the States, the black bear thing popped up in California, and you see a very cohesive response from hunters and organizations like BHA and a number of other folks, right? And I feel like in the States, they have that power to stand up and kind of put some pressure back when things like that pop up. My concern in BC is that I don't know if we have that same level of power, for lack of word. At least I haven't seen it historically, and I'm not, I've been hunting for 6 years, so I don't know the whole 50, 100-year story. But I just worry that if we don't. There's an attitude where, well, why should I change the way I post social media, or why should I change my marketing strategy, or, if people don't like it, then tough. Well, I think, in the States, sometimes that strategy works out just fine because you have such a big backing behind you that you can kind of push back when there's pressure. But I fear in BC, we're just going to get steamrolled, just like we did with the grizzly bear. So I think folks do have to look inwards, and I think we have to consider not as a way, it's not a weakness thing. It's just consider how the other side's going to look at it, just to ensure you get to keep doing what you're doing, and so your kids get to keep doing what you're doing. It's nothing more than that. It's, sometimes we just have to, tread a bit more consciously.
Yeah.
And it's weird. I mean, I don't think the intent of part of it is like, well, I'm not doing anything wrong, so, why do I have to do that? Well, I agree, you're not doing anything wrong, but it's still about consideration and about how other people will perceive it, whether they're right or wrong. But, if you got 80% of people perceiving it one way that might not even be the way you intended, then, and they shut you down, then who ultimately won there?
Yeah.
So, I still think there's a lot of, I know a lot of folks are really good at it, but the problem is it only takes one, right? It only takes one photo.
Yeah.
So I worry about that piece a bit. And I think that's one piece that hunters, we can all improve on a little bit or consider as we move forward.
And you guys grew up here before like social media or anything like that. You're in your own little bubble.
Mm-hmm.
This, this little network of people here. I mean, all you really know is BC Wildlife Federation and then your local rod and gun club. I mean, before listening to podcasts and you guys spearheading the Rookie Hunter, I mean, I had no idea all these other things were out there. And then social media, obviously going onto the right platforms and getting involved and seeing everything that everyone's doing to connect, to have a stronger voice for hunting. I mean, those are the kind of avenues I like to plug into. Like, I'm sure you guys are the exact same way. I mean, like, you guys set the initiative for me, and then you guys open those doors up for me to see all these different people advocating for hunting, which is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, it just takes that one negative image.
Mm-hmm. Totally. I think from a more, I guess, regulated perspective, if that's the right word, I would love to see that dedication of funds.
Definitely.
From the hunters, license fees, take all that money, put it towards wildlife management.
Absolutely.
Or back to the resource, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy that we're not doing that yet.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that could really help, and I think it would make a big difference. And I think that the legislated goals for how BC manages its resources is also another one, but that's at quite a high level, maybe a much higher level than even getting the fees dedicated. But those are two more, I guess, more technical pieces that would definitely help.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like big picture, man, it's not, hunters aren't really like the huge problem. It's like the way we manage our forests and all the roads, and that's like the biggest issue right there, man.
Exactly.
Is habitat, you know what I mean? And nobody's really talking about that. They're just pointing at hunters, which is, it's kind of silly. It's only going to work against wildlife conservation, which, makes me wonder, like, what do you guys think would happen to say if like all hunting stopped and ceased to exist like tomorrow? What do you think happens to wildlife in British Columbia?
My thought is that the trajectory that we're on continues. We just, if mule deer's tanking today, they're going to continue to tank, and likely worse tomorrow, because you're going to remove a lot of engagement from the folks that love the resource and the wildlife that use it. They may take an individual per season, but I think you nailed it with the bigger picture being that it's the habitat, it's the roads, it's the, it's all the habitat issues that are kind of, whether it's creating more predator issues, whether it's, you know, just the reduction of fires that other species rely on, or no, our ability to put those fires out, and our, I guess, lack of ability to create fires where we need them due to liability. Yeah, I just think if you took hunting out of the equation, we'd still have all the same problems, but you would also remove, how many hunters, let's say 100,000 hunters, and let's say anglers were next. Take 350,000 anglers out of the equation too. Like, you're basically taking out 500,000 people in BC that are probably some of the most actively engaged folks in trying to sustain these habitats and resources. So I don't know. I mean, I look at hunting as kind of a renewable activity, like a renewable resource, a sustainable resource. So, that's kind of we should be able to manage to, you can hunt this percentage without impacting the overall population. So it becomes a perpetual activity, right? So, in my eyes, hunting isn't driving a population, just keeping things as is, right? It's kind of keeping it at par, but it's all these other factors that are driving populations into the dirt, is what I'm seeing.
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
know. It's a tough issue. It's hard to, wrap your head around, really.
We have all these people advocating for all these different species. They're seeing this firsthand, like you're saying, out in the field. So they're putting eyes on this and they're giving it a voice, especially if like a certain species is suffering or you're seeing a lack of them out there. Like in our area is the mountain caribou, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they've been trying so hard to sustain the mountain caribou. And if you have all these eyes out there and you take all that away, like you said, I feel like it's going to put certain species at a point where of almost all, like, or no return. So where does it go from there? Does it come out of the taxpayers' dollar to try and revamp this? I mean, I know you still have biologists and all that doing the research, and obviously BC still cares about their wildlife, but like you said, you remove that amount of people from the equation that are out in the field. How many days out of their I mean, this is all out of their own pocket too.
Yeah, the boots on the ground folks that, we're kind of all submitting statistics at the end of the day with our hunter surveys and everything like that. I mean, that's all this information is useful, and we have a very big province, and we're one of the least funded in terms of wildlife management. So, now you take all the boots off the ground, and where are you getting this information? And my understanding is, BC's pretty low on the science front in terms of funding and biologists and the amount of resources that are getting put towards that. When we look at other states like Idaho and Montana and folks like that per square kilometer, we're like right at the bottom of the list. So
I like that's exactly what we're talking about here is funding, right?
Yep.
Like we want all of our licensing and everything to go straight back into science-based decisions, and it's money.
Yeah, exactly. I think the Habitat Trust episode there on Faces of Wildlife, he said 95% of BC is public land. So if you take away the 13% that's already provincial park and protected area, then basically the rest of that has to basically support all the industries. So forestry, mining, everything, plus all the wildlife. So when you have so many competing interests, like I don't think the competing interest is necessarily a bad thing. I just think, at what point are those and how are those interests all put kind of in one place? And then we, as a province, determine like, well, how important is the future of BC's wildlife in this picture? You know what I mean? And from a long-term perspective, 50 years, 100 years, 200 years. Like I don't know. I don't get the sense that's happening right now.
No.
I know they did the Together for Wildlife plan, but the but there for me is I didn't see anything around funding there. So, I'm always hopeful and optimistic about, driving towards positive change, but, without some funding and some rubber on the road, like where are we going to go and how long is it actually going to take here? So, and I know Jesse's comment is always managing to zero, and that's kind of the fear, right? Is like by the time we actually do anything, it's almost irreversible with some of these species, especially the canaries, like mule deer and species like that, where they're kind of the first ones to start tailing off, and it could be quite hard to get them back again. So
That's my concern there. Managing to zero.
yeah,
If like when Mike asked, where do you think our wildlife would be without hunting? And I think that would be it. It'd be, holy, we got a problem. What are we going to do now?
and it's not because we don't have problems now with and hunting is in that fold. I just I don't think hunting's driving the problems. I think we just all got to come together and try to steer it in another direction here, and that seems to be the hard part.
Yeah, one of the things that jumped out to me in that debate that Jesse did with I don't remember what her name is, but she was talking about how hunting only brings in X amount of dollars into the economy, and how like ecotourism brings in more than that. I don't remember what the numbers were, but to me, I
Yeah.
don't really care about what these two things are doing for the economy. It's like, what are these things doing for wildlife? What is
Yeah.
ecotourism like? What are they? What do they have to do to sustain wildlife? Like, there's no rules in place for them to put money back into conservation.
Mhm.
I'm sure there's some really good ones out there that do, but like, what percentage of revenue from ecotourism goes back? I think it's zero. You know what I mean? Unless
Yeah.
they agree to do that on their own, which hopefully a lot of them do. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it's kind of a shitty way to look at it, rather than how much money does hunting bring in for conservation would be a better way to look at it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because
Or the other way to look at it would be how much money does hunting bring into conservation plus how much money does ecotourism bring into conservation? Like, why don't we all put it into one bucket instead of trying to vilify each other?
yeah, that's the thing, man. And it's like it's what I said in the beginning of the last episode. It's like we have more things in common. We have the same goal. Like,
Yeah.
why are we arguing about all this other shit when like we're both focused on the exact same thing? We want wildlife. So what the fuck is the point of like, arguing about all this other stuff when we could say, okay, like we disagree on this and this and this, but that's okay. Let's work together on this one main goal. And let's like
Mhm.
let's put all of our money together towards conservation, and let's make it mandatory for all, hunting fees go into conservation, and X amount of dollars from ecotourism also go into conservation. And also industry pays X amount of dollars for their impact on, you know, habitat. And then we've solved this problem. And whatever, some people don't want to eat meat, and that's fine. And some people do. And I think this is a good way to, sustain, like you said, man, it's a renewable resource. It totally is, as
Mhm.
long as it's managed properly. So if
Yeah.
we,
And local too.
yeah, exactly, man. So it makes more sense for us to sort of like agree to disagree on certain things, but just, come up with a solution to fix the problem. Because if we just keep
Yeah.
arguing about it, then we're all going to lose out at some point. So,
Yeah.
Like, I I recall when me and you were up north there, Mike, hunting, and I won't say the name, but we came across that individual who was hunting stone sheep, and we're talking about ecotourism and that it's essentially wildlife viewing. I think at one point there, me and you kind of looked at each other and laughed, like, essentially this person's just in here wildlife viewing, because what are the odds of actually pulling the trigger on
yeah.
a full crow rabbit?
Yeah.
Like, you were like laughing, like, oh, she's probably paying like thousands,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
all it is like a scenic tour of
Yeah.
viewing wildlife in BC.
Yeah.
So
You know, that's a good example, Garrett, because it's kind of like, you know, it's one of those pinnacle, you know, hunts. And I think it's that not because people want to have the picture of the big horn ram, but like they say it takes generally 8 years of hunting to get that ram. So like let's imagine all the costs and effort that goes into that 8 years of training and equipment and, you know, booking the flights and, you know, supporting the businesses in and around that area.
absolutely.
And, you know, and then they get folks generally in the sheep community get involved with the Wild Sheep Foundation and the Wild Sheep Society of BC because,
Yeah.
you know, it's such a difficult goal that they kind of gravitate towards each other into a family. And then you get those folks working together. And so, you know, what I see generally is folks don't appreciate the act of killing an individual animal, right? Like that in the public for a non-hunter is kind of where I think that's the issue is people just who haven't hunted, don't understand how and why someone could kill an animal. The only way to kind of cross that bridge, I think, and Mike and I have done this because we didn't grow up really doing this, was to experience it for ourselves and, you know, to understand why we were doing it. Well, we were doing it because we were putting food on the table. And I would personally rather take responsibility for the act myself if I'm going to eat a hamburger rather than, you know, go down to the grocery store and buy, you know, go to Costco and look at a row of like 3 aisles of red meat and pick out something that's wrapped in saran wrap, right? And not only that, but the act of pulling the trigger is, you know, one of the hardest things that I've done because I don't personally find it fun to like that moment. I don't actually find, you know, I fully understand the repercussions of what I'm doing in that moment. And I'm not totally stoked about it. And, you know, I've even thought afterwards, you know, weeks, months, or even years after a hunt back to that moment and kind of, you know, it's not like you don't understand what you're doing. But you kind of are doing it for the reason of, you know, I'm putting food on the table for my family and, you know, you're respecting and you have reverence for the animal that you've taken, just like I would catching a fish, right? Like, but yeah, I don't know, man. I just think that's kind of the gap that is so hard to cross there. But my point is, like, let's say you're having a hard time crossing that gap. Like you just simply do not agree with people killing an individual animal. Well, if you shut that down, you're essentially taking away that sheep hunter that spent 8 years of money and dedication to conservation, most likely in these organizations, you know, working on burns, working on, you know, all these things that help those species. And they might not even get that animal in 8 years. Like,
Oh, exactly.
you know, we've been on a couple hunts already. It seems like a completely unattainable goal when you're going out there, at least for us, because we're not going out there with anybody that knows what they're doing, right?
So you're saying, like, if you don't want to eat meat, you're essentially saying you're a vegetarian. Then you're not going to eat because if you go to a grocery store and pick out meat, then how is that better?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of one aspect of it is, I don't think hunting's for everybody, but I don't think that it's dishonorable if you eat meat to want to get it yourself. Similar to farmers, right? Like if you farm your own food and you kill the animal and you eat it, like, you know, how is that? I don't understand how that's different than someone that hunts for a deer to put on food on their table too. But the other aspect of it is just kind of, you know, I'm that sheep example is a good one because I just feel like there's so much effort and money and conservation mindset that goes into most sheep hunters and that I know. And then to go back to Mike's question of what would happen if you took hunting away. Well, you're taking all those people and all their effort away,
Yes.
and it takes them 8 years to get a sheep. So, you know, to sacrifice one sheep every 8 years, if we're just looking at an individual basis, compared to the amount of work that person put in, is, I don't know. I mean, I just think, again, we're all working to the same goal here, and the benefit, as long as the hunt is sustainable and science based, the benefit ultimately goes to the species overall. So we're keeping those sheep on the mountain, right? Like, that's the whole point, is keep the sheep on the mountain.
I totally agree. Mike, when you make your return back out into the field hunting, any species you want to pursue? Is there any goals or anything?
No, man, and it kind of goes back to just like what you were saying is like I usually only step foot into the backcountry for the adventure and for the stories, and it's it is really less about what we're pursuing. It's more about like where we get to go, and
Yeah.
all the planning to like make a trip happen, and that's the stuff that I really look forward to. So it doesn't really matter to me, and I was kind of just like leaving it up to find out where you guys wanted to do this year, and I want to come out on these hunts and capture them differently than we have in the past. Like I want to come out and just almost be like a spectator on a hunt and like capture all the audio and do some really cool stuff like that, because part of, I think, of what's missing out there is like capturing that experience, right? And of course it exists in film and everything like that, but to do more of it through audio and to just come out there and have a focus of like capturing you guys in the moment, and that rather than being the hunter and the audio engineer going out there and trying to do all of it, it'll be fun to just kind of like capture your guys' story now that I've both taken over the show. So long story short, yeah, I'm just looking forward to spending some time outside, really.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Like Jesse says all the time, is being able to tell your story, and then going back to what Kelly was talking about, if it takes you 8 years,
Yeah,
we can bridge that gap when we finally do harvest a full crow ram, if that'll ever happen. I mean, I would love it, but at least people can see the journey that we went on through to get to that point. And that wouldn't be the end of it. I don't think it would be for you guys either. We would continue on hunting sheep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, like you said, Jesse did touch on that a few times, and especially in that debate. And it's like, it's about spending time with friends and family and having those stories. And that's kind of all I expected to come back with. Like when we went up north, was just a good story. And we came back with a few, and before the hunt even started, man, before we even flew out of there.
Oh man, we met some special characters.
Oh, we sure did.
Remember that hippie running down the road with nothing on?
Yeah. Where was that?
Fort Smith? Or no, not Fort Smith. Smithers.
Smithers, yeah. Right? Yeah.
Smithers, yeah. I think he had like flannel pants on, and that's it. No shoes, no socks, no shirt.
Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah.
Precisely the reason why we do this. For stupid stories like that. But yeah. What do you guys got planned for the spring? Or what are your sort of goals for where you might want to go or what you might want to go after?
Well, I was hoping I'd tap into you guys there and ask you about turkey hunting and bear hunting, because I've never done it. Like, and I know you guys have been successful on both. So I was going to pick your guys' brains and then see where to take it from there.
Totally. Yeah. We're definitely looking at black bear. And Garrett, I'm stoked to kind of bring you out on some black bear hunts, considering you haven't done it. I know there was one point a year or two ago where we almost went after one. But yeah, it'd be nice to do that this spring. And that's definitely the biggest goal, I would say, in the spring. And then turkeys, another one. And Garrett, in the Kootenays, there's a ton of turkeys over there. So I think that would probably happen in your neck of the woods. But, and then, from there, it's what I would like to do, assuming we harvest one or both of those, is, to, again, tell the story about the black bear meat, right? Mostly the black bear meat. I mean, I think folks know why people harvest turkeys, and I never hear about turkeys in the news, but, bears seem to make their way there every second week. So
it's my biggest, sorry, Callie, it's my biggest phobia. So
turkeys?
The bear meat, and I know you and Mike have had it, and
Yeah.
you guys have been telling me this whole time how good it is. So I mean, that'll be the
Well,
biggest step for me.
you know what? We all started in the same place though. Mike and I, when we started hunting, we kind of were like, can you eat bear? And I think it speaks a lot to, if some new hunters are thinking that way, then how is the general public thinking? They're probably thinking you can't eat that, and why are you shooting it? Well,
Exactly.
it's even a bit of a gap that we had to cross as we were getting into hunting. But fortunately, we have folks like Steve Vernella and folks that are, I think, better role models in the hunting community and telling the stories. And you kind of follow that, and you're like, yeah, I think I want to try this. And then we harvested one, turned it into food. It was amazing. And now it's like, I think Mike and I remember talking about that, just saying, let's go bear hunting and let's see what this is for ourselves, and let's turn it into our own food. And I'm done of, I'm sick of hearing stories about, oh, you can't eat this and you can't eat that, no matter what species it is. It's like, well, how did you cook it? How did you harvest it? Did you take care of the meat? It kind of all applies, whether it's a deer or anything else. But yeah, man, we had great luck with the bear. So long story short, I would like to turn another one into food and kind of keep telling that story.
I'm sure. I don't know this, but I'm sure when you guys were preparing the food, especially you, Mike, you guys were probably giving a lot of attention to cooking temperature, right?
Yeah, black bear, you gotta cook it 160, 165 just to kill the trichinosis.
You basically just treat it like pork.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The only reason why I say that, because a lot of these like videos I watched, like they're frying the bear meat in the fat. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Where they take the
Yeah.
bear fat,
Yeah.
render it down, and like I think that's pretty ballsy. Like I don't know if I just wanted to. Did you guys do that with the bear you shot?
No, we didn't render the oil, although that's something we probably should try. The thing about bear is it's the most useful animal.
I was gonna say spring bear that you had, so there's not much fat on them at that
Okay.
point. So Kelly, you took care of all of that, but I don't know if there would have been much fat to render off of that bear or not. But once you get those nice big fat fall bears, then you can definitely get into some of that for sure.
Do you
Yeah.
think like Mike would and Kelly, is that taking too much of a risk then? Like, you know what I mean? Because you you're deep frying it and you're thinking, well, I guess this is gonna be all right. Would you go out on a limb like that and try it, or was that something you'd be like, no, I want this to cook to that specific temperature so I know it's safe?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like it can be done, and I know like a lot of people say that bear fat is like the best thing for like baking and stuff like that. Instead of using
Yeah.
lard, you use bear fat, and if you get a good fall bear that's been eating like berries and stuff like that, sometimes the fat can actually be like purple in color, and you'll
Oh
have some of
wow.
that flavor from them. That's why like some of the I don't know. You hear people say that they've had bear that tasted like fish, and sometimes if you're getting coastal bears that have been eating lots of dead fish, then they're going to kind of taste like what they've been eating. So diet is all part of that, I think, and whether or not you're going to enjoy the fat or not. But being that we've never done it, we'd obviously have to do some research. But I think it's definitely worth experimenting with at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming when you harvest the bear, you take all the fat off it, and then do you have to render it down in a certain time frame? And then when you do you can it, or how do you preserve it, or do you even have to?
That's a
Is
good
that
question.
something like
Yeah, something we
I
haven't.
wonder what kind of a process it is to. I imagine
You know,
like, sorry,
who would know? Steve Vernella.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's got resources on it. But yeah, I mean, if that's something we could look into in terms of rendering fat for cooking. But the other thing with black bear is they've also rendered fat for gun oil, for boots, for
Oh yeah.
I believe back in and this is something we've touched on before, but like back in the day, if they didn't kill a bear, I don't think they made it through the winter. So the bears, centuries ago, like they basically had to kill the bear to kind of keep the camp sustained and their equipment and, needing the fat for food and everything else. So I don't know. From what I've read, it's one of the most useful bears in terms of the usability of all the parts. So yeah, man. I mean, I think black bear is a really good opportunity in BC for hunters. I think the table fare is really good. I think, the ability to get out hunting in the spring is really fun. You get out there early. You get to kind of observe a lot of other animals that you don't in the fall or just in different behaviors, right? So it's just a completely different environment. I mean, most folks, when they think hunting, they think fall. So you get to go in a completely different season. That's what I like about it. And, if I couldn't eat the black bear, I personally wouldn't be going after them, but, they taste great to me. So I'm going to continue doing it.
If you get trichinella, is it curable or do you have to live with it?
I believe I don't know. I can't remember. I know Ranella had it as well, but
yeah, with trichinosis, I think it's something that remains in your body
forever.
Yeah, but it's not like it affects you after, like it'll make you sick, I think, initially.
Superhuman powers.
But if if you have it now and you got tested in 20 years, it's still going to show that it's there, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But I don't think it has any long-term effects. It's like, I think Ranella, sort of describes it as having like another war wound, is something that he can carry around with him.
I mean, my plan would just be not to get it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think he got it because, and he would even admit it, that he was being irresponsible with that meal that they were cooking. But I mean, I think it's, I don't think it's a concern as long as you're responsible. And, trichinosis was a concern with pork historically, not so much anymore. But I mean, that's always why they told you to cook pork to 160, is because that trichinosis was in pork as well. So I think nowadays it's much less risky in pork. So they say, you can kind of cook you don't have to go right to 160. I think you can actually go a little less, but don't take my word on that. I just know, you go to a fancy restaurant, if you order a pork tenderloin, generally it's a bit pink in the middle.
Right.
I wouldn't do that with bear meat.
See, that's what I mean. Like when you guys went at it, I'm sure you had meals in mind that you knew you were confident you're going to prepare. Like, to me, like smoking a ham. Did you guys smoke? Like, I would want my smoker to be able to control to a temperature that I knew was going to hit. Mm-hmm. Like, Mike, would you take your old man's little chief and smoke a ham in there? And
I think so, man. But I think what I would want to do is get a really good like digital thermometer. You can get like cool Bluetooth ones now too, so you don't have to keep opening up the door and stuff, and make sure that you can do it. Because I know Jesse has done a bunch of hams with black bear meat. So yeah, I think it's definitely doable, but you just want to make sure you have the right tools to make sure that it's going to be cooked properly, and because you want to feed that to your family and friends and stuff with confidence, right?
Yeah. I want to start a trichinosis apocalypse.
No.
Well, that's good to know, because that's my main concern. And then switching gears to turkey, like when you guys harvest your turkey, did you pluck it, or how did you prepare it? Like, how did you, or did you skin it? Or is there only one way to do it? Do you just pluck them, or?
I'm trying to remember here. Randy helped me out with that because I was hunting with him and he's done it his whole life. So he made pretty quick work of it. I was more the guy just holding the leg. But, I believe it was more skinning. We didn't take the bird home and pluck it. I mean, you could do multiple things. It depends, I think, what you ultimately want to do with the bird at the end of the day. We took the legs and the breast meat. And, there's a lot of meat on those birds.
There you go. You can do a turkey deep fried in bear fat.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly.
There you go.
Smells like spring. Yeah. And, I actually still have, I think, a little bit of that turkey meat in the freezer, but it's really good, man. And, even the legs, like turkey legs are something else when you see them, like the tendons and stuff, and they're like built out of armor. Really tough meat, but and I'd thrown them into a slow cooker. And after about 8 hours, I check them, and I'm like, oh man, they're still like, did I overcook them? Or I don't think I can overcook them in a slow cooker. So I'm like, well, I have nothing to lose, so I'm just going to leave them in there for another 4 hours. So I went 12 hours, and when I got to that point, they were just fall apart.
Oh, nice.
So, sometimes you just got to put that extra time in.
Mike, have you ever had wild turkey?
Well, just what Kelly was talking about. I was actually there when he had it going.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
yeah, waiting because it's crazy how
we're both looking at it going, what happened here? Mike's like, no, just leave it. You can't go wrong with leaving it longer.
Yeah.
So yeah, we pushed it out for another few hours, and it ended up being pretty good.
Nice.
Yeah, it's amazing, man. Like, it's just low and slow. You got to be patient with that kind of meat sometimes. And again, that's why a lot of it gets a bad reputation, is just because people aren't sure how to cook it. So,
Yep.
If Kelly had taken that turkey out 2 or 3 hours earlier, it would have been pretty unpleasant to eat.
Norris wouldn't eat it.
Yeah. So, just a good point of like learning how to cook these things is huge, right?
Yeah, exactly. Even with fish too. I mean, you trout fishing in lakes and stuff. I mean, at different seasons, even the fish seem to taste a little different. Sometimes they can taste a little fish tanky if it's warmer season. I find anyways, if that makes sense. But I again think it comes down to like, well, how are you ultimately going to prepare it? And if you know that there's certain flavors that come out in certain seasons, and maybe you have different ways to prepare it for different seasons too. I think at the end of the day, the meat quality is still there. It's just, what do you like? There's so many options. It's endless.
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing I'd like to try with bear, which we haven't, is like a bear curry.
Ooh, yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like kind of like what Mike did with the mountain goat there, like the vindaloo.
Yeah.
Like a stew almost, but yeah, something like that would be really cool.
That's how I cooked the mountain goat, was just like stews.
Yeah.
Just throw everything in there and let it everything just right into the meat.
Yeah.
All the spices, slow cook.
Braise it. Yeah, definitely. The other thing too, with spring coming, depending on the regulations, any opportunity to go for small game. I mean, I guess turkey falls into that category, but small game is a blast too. And it's really good table fare. And the reason I got into hunting partially was the food, just learning how to cook too. This was like, when the boom happened with shows like Chopped and MasterChef and all those.
That's
like
right,
Bree and I were watching that stuff nonstop. And then I started getting more and more into cooking, and it was just like, how do you perfect just cooking a chicken breast? Because you can screw up a chicken breast in a hurry, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like no fat in there. So I figured out I'd dial that in. A little bit of a sear, throw the pan in the stove 10 minutes, put with a cover on it, and boom, it will come out perfect every time. It takes like 10 minutes. So then, you just keep building on your culinary skills. And then it's kind of like, well, what, this hunting thing's really cool because I'm obsessed with the outdoors as it is. So you're telling me that I can now go out to places that I would never go any other time on purpose. And I can interact and engage with wildlife, which is another amazing thing. And then if I'm super lucky, if I'm 1% lucky, if I have that 1% on my side, then I can potentially take this meat home and learn how to cook with it, with that nobody else in the city has, right? I mean, maybe there's a few people that got deer too. Okay, so there's a small handful of people in this city that have that meat in their freezer. Like, you just get more and more into this. It's just, I think it's just so cool to be able to be, I have mountain goat in my freezer. I have bear in my freezer. I have elk in my freezer. I have rainbow trout that I caught in my freezer. Like, I can invite my friends over. I can show them how I've learned to cook these things and give them an experience that they're not going to get probably anywhere else. So, all this stuff ties together for me for hunting. And then, Mike, obviously the fitness side too that we've dipped into, but like, it just all comes together. And I feel like that story is what's missing. But I mean, just to tie it back to our original conversation, but I mean, the food is, a large reason for why I've kind of dipped into, other species like bear and turkey, Garrett. So, if I'm kind of stoked that we get to go into this, and, I'm looking forward to you being able to experience that too and see what you can do with the food too.
I'm gonna have to clean the cobwebs out of the gun. Like I think of how adventurous you guys are with your beer, and you've sampled all these different types of beers, and you guys have a really good catalog of what's what. And I would like to have that same sort of thing with spices. Like I follow, like you're saying, when that whole cooking wave took off. There's certain people I've been following now. Like there's these guys out there, I think they're called the Bearded Butcher, and they got their own spices. I think it would be cool if you had all these different spices that you could, you have one that does this and one that does that. I mean, it's the same way with people drinking coffee too, right? Everyone's got their coffee and blend that they like to drink and how they like to drink it.
Yep.
So, I mean, it'd be cool to collect that stuff from a food perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it gives you some fresh ideas and a fresh experience, and kind of a unique one too. Like, if you're going to have a big barbecue and smoke a bear ham and, let's say COVID's gone, you invite a big pile of people over, and how many folks have had that experience, and then you get to kind of cook it the way you want with your own ingredients. And I don't know. I mean, that stuff's all such a cool part of the story.
The trichinosis tailgater.
I don't know how long it takes to kick in, but
seconds. So, Mike, speaking of small, you mentioned small game, Kelly. Those dogs that you mentioned, would you have any desire to pursue like upland games, especially with like a German short hair or something like that?
Yeah, I think so, man. And even like apparently whippets are actually good hunting dogs.
Oh yeah,
from what I've read. Anyways, especially I don't know if you've ever seen one run, but it's crazy. They're
I've never.
so fast, man. It's insane. But the cool thing, even with Oscars, like when I got him, I didn't hunt at all, and so I started bringing them out with me, and it's just like bred into them, man. Like they just like without any training, they just kind of know what to do, and like Kelly and I would be out grouse hunting with him, and then you'd see his ears perk up, and he would point like because he's a pointer. Like they actually physically lift up their paw and point in the direction of whatever they're hearing.
Nice.
So it's so cool to watch, man. So I don't think I would go like next level, full on, make it a hunting dog kind of thing, but obviously bring them out for the hunt and just see what they do.
Because you guys there's pheasant down there, isn't there?
Yeah.
In the Okanagan?
I only ever see them on like farms though. They're wild, but they tend to hang out there. There's couple
quail
just up
too,
the road
right?
from, oh yeah, there's quail everywhere.
Tons of quail. Yeah.
But again, the quail all seem to hang out in town, and you don't see them too much
Yeah,
outside
that's
of
true.
town. But there is pheasant around. I've just never seen them beyond city limits. Have you?
I haven't seen them outside of city limits. I've only seen them around the office, and they were
Oh yeah.
we have to put signs up on the glass because they will attack. The males will attack because they think it's another male in the window. So they start pecking at the windows and stuff, and it doesn't end up well for the bird. But when that I've seen that a couple times where we had to run out there and put like Post-it notes all over the windows to avoid that.
That's hilarious. The turkeys
But
do
they're
that
cool.
to my wife's car. Like parking, they'll just go full on, freak out, and start attacking the side of the car.
Yeah. Pheasants are cool birds, man.
Yeah.
I think it'd be really cool to go after some pheasant, and I'm sure they're really good eating too. I've had pheasant, but it was restaurant, so I'm sure they cook it much better than I would, and also I don't know where that pheasant came from. I'm sure it wasn't wild.
So upland game, definitely in. Nice.
I guess the key with upland game is just the area, like getting the area down, and likely finding somebody to do it with, maybe that has, a bird dog that you can use, or I don't know. I think some species are pretty difficult if you don't have that, especially if you're hunting around water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I know Mark Hall and his son do a lot of waterfowl hunting, and it'd be cool to kind of tag along with somebody like that and learn the ropes. I almost don't want to at the same time, just because I feel like it's another obsession that's waiting to snag us, right?
To burn a hole through your wallet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More shit to buy.
Yeah.
Hey, I saw this post. I think it was on Facebook, and the guy had a photo of his goose blind kind of set up, and it said "stolen goose blind," and it had this description, and then it had a picture where you could barely even see the blind in the grass. And then in the comments, they're just like, "Are you sure you didn't lose it there? Like, it's just still sitting in the same spot." It was just built in so nice that yeah, it was pretty funny, but it'd be fun to try some of that stuff.
Yeah. Nice.
But as far as that's spring, and then, things kind of dip in the summer, right? There's not too much to hunt. And then, Garrett and I have talked a lot about elk hunting in the fall, and there is some potential to tie in some bighorn sheep as well. Depending on the area, but elk primarily being the goal.
What is your guys' take on trail cameras?
Well,
Do you think that's fair chase, or? Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
oh no, I was just gonna say, like, for us, they haven't really done any good for us.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the only value we've gotten out of trail cams is just kind of cool to see what's out there.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, but I don't know. There's ones that will like send pictures to your phone and shit, aren't there?
Yeah, I don't think you're allowed to use those.
Okay, well,
Is
I was
that
gonna
right?
say that
I
I'm
know
not-
there's been some rule changes around some
Yeah.
of them.
So that, yeah, I'm not too into. But like I say, man, it hasn't really done us any good.
There's a couple, I've heard some folks say they don't use them. It's their choice. They just choose not to use them because they feel like it's the most kind of fair chase to just go out there and experience it and just use their senses and kind of let their instinct take them where they need to, right? And I kind of appreciate that. I mean, like Mike said, I've used a trail cam or two, and it's really cool to take them down and to see what's walking around out there. Like, one camera will have 8 different species of animals on it, and some cameras have been tossed around by a black bear a
Yeah.
few times. So it's always fun to kind of see what's that camera's life. But as far as the benefit to hunting, I haven't pulled any benefit, man. Like, even where I've seen bucks walking by and stuff, I go to that spot and it really didn't help me. I mean, the reason I put the camera there was because I thought it was a decent spot in the first place.
Yeah.
And I probably would have went there anyways. And then I see all these nice bucks, and then I go there and I don't see anything. So it almost makes it worse. I think to make trail cams work, you almost have to have like a strategy, like a football team, where you kind of draw on this, chalkboard in X's of where all your trail cams are, almost like, whitetail hunting on a farm in a way. You know how
Yeah.
they use trail cams?
Yeah.
Like, I think they work in those cases, but you got to have a full-blown strategy, and you got to put a ton of effort into that scouting.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know. I'm sure it would work in the cases of elk hunting and, some other species, but it's almost more effort put into that than it is the actual.
I was asking in terms of fair chase. I mean, I've heard the same conversation had over radios too.
Yeah.
Where you set a guy up on a ridge and you say, the other guy's, little to your left, now a little to your, you know what I mean? Up a little bit, that sort of thing.
Right.
And it's different for everyone, like you said, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think what the hunting we've done to date, we're never really hunting in the same spot very much. So that's another reason that I don't think we've invested in trail cams, but I don't know. I kind of like not using them. and just kind of going out there and experiencing whatever we experience.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at. But I mean, I don't have anything against people that use trail cams.
Oh, and the pictures are great, like you said. Like it's just cool.
Yeah,
seeing
it's pretty cool to see. I've got a lot of cool pics of cougars, Garrett.
Yeah, don't tell me that. don't let Bree know that. Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Mike, I like your idea of being able to, come on the trips and focus more on that storytelling piece. Obviously you have a good eye for production and, capturing those moments and presenting them. And I think, that's one of the things that hunters need to do moving forward. So I think that's a great idea. And I think that hunting in BC could be, really pushed a little further in the right direction with folks like you kind of capturing it in that way.
Yeah.
So
yeah, man, I think, like I said, it's too, we've done a good job. I think, like, if you think about like the bear hunt is a cool example of like kind of roughly what this could be. And that's just like throwing a recorder in my bino harness, you know what I mean? And capturing it that way. But if we can kind of take it to the next level where I can just focus on only capturing you guys and making a cool story out of it, I think it'll be fun to do it that way.
Oh, that would be unreal.
Yeah. So
that way we don't have to bug you every time something messes up, especially me.
Yeah, and plus we could still have you there if we need another set of legs.
Yeah, I'm always game to pack some shit out. So
yeah, set some stuff up, pack some stuff out.
Yep.
Maybe partake in a whiskey or two.
Oh yeah, that's a given.
Yeah.
Are you, Mike? Are you still rocking the Sony A6000
Walkman?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I had to think. I was going through all my gear. Yes, I am. Yeah, it's been good. Yeah, and I've done some video stuff with it, and it's good. I haven't been out taking photos. That's something I need to get back into as well.
Yes, me too.
I'm going. I have to go to the island in April for work, so that's could be a good opportunity to bring out the camera and get some good photos there. But so yeah, I am.
Cool.
It's a tough little camera. Like I've been taking it out with the dogs, and the thing just gets soaked every time. Well, I know it's not a good thing, but
yeah,
like it definitely takes a beating. And I was concerned, like, I know you guys have that special little holder for your backpack strap. Is that right? You got, Mike, you got
no,
that?
I don't.
Kelly
does.
Yeah, and I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but it's a clip capture, I think it's called.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that might be worth investing in.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with these cameras, and I think we all pretty much have the same one, the Sony A series, they're mirrorless cameras that are compact, and you can still get some really good lens options. The better lens you get, obviously, the heavier it gets. And the problem is, the heavier that camera gets with a clip like that, if it's not positioned in the exact right spot, it can actually start digging into your like clavicle area.
Oh, really?
Your collarbone. So, with the A6000, I don't think that's really a concern. I mean, it's such a light camera, unless you're going out there with some like massive zoom 2.8 lens. That might be a bigger problem, but those clips work great for these little mirrorless cameras, in my opinion.
Yeah, I love that camera. That's I think you guys recommended it there, and my wife bought it for me. It's awesome for packing around. It's light, small.
Yeah, and not too expensive either, because I mean, who knows what you're traipsing through, right? Bushes and everything else. I mean, if you broke it, it's not the complete end of the world. Maybe if you broke a lens, I always say folks should save the money on the body and buy a good lens if you have to make that call.
But I'm like you, I need to start taking more photos to get, because I go through like these swells where I'm taking lots and I get a couple good ones and then I just stop.
Yep.
Yeah,
So,
likewise. Yeah.
Yeah, you just got to have it on you. I think that's the key. The more you have it on you, and the good thing about digital is, like, who cares if you take a bad picture? So if you take 1,000, you're going to get a few good ones.
Yeah.
And I don't know if your guys' camera, I'm pretty sure it would have the continuous shooting. So you can just hold the button and it's just like a machine gun.
Yeah.
So that's really cool too. But yeah, I mean, you can get some good ones. We do have to get the social media, the Instagram rolling a little better here. But, once we start getting out there again, it should be easier to do that. Yeah, Mike, it's been great having you back on here for catch up.
Yeah, for sure. We'll do this every couple of months or something like that. Would be kind of fun.
Yeah, definitely. And, it's a lot of good conversation happening around hunting world right now. So, we can keep a beat on that, all of us together, and kind of revisit it every once in a while. But yeah, and then once we get into actual hunting, and, I'm looking forward to Mike being out there with his microphone, and maybe you can bring your boom mic out there too.
I'll get you guys all wired up and everything.
Yeah, Mike, it's good to have you back on the podcast. I know you're always here, but it's good to hear your voice again.
Nice to chat with you guys, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we'll keep in touch.
Cool. All right, man. Well, good chat, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Yeah, my audio fucked up hard.
Did it?
I get it. Did it?
There you have it. Episode 134. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Nice to be back. If you're bored and looking for something to do, you can always head over to Instagram and follow the guys there, Rookie Hunter Podcast. And we need to do a little bit of updating on the old website, but it's still there, and you can find episodes there and all that good shit at rookiehunter.com. Thanks for listening, and thanks for supporting the show. We'll see you guys in a couple weeks. Cheers.